Welcome to your fulfillment roadmap. If you're running a successful business, but you don't love it and it's not really fulfilling, then you're doing business on hard mode, operating at a mediocre level because you just don't love it enough and you're wasting a ton of energy, and you're not just leaving fun and enjoyment on the table, but also massive growth. Because the people who build the most impressive businesses, they love it. And they're running what I would call their forever business, which is one that they love so much that they can do it for decades. And I get it. I've been through this challenge myself. I ran a business that I hated, and then I sold it. Then I started my media company, which is fancy way of saying my YouTube channel, which I enjoyed a lot more, but it needed some tweaks. And now I love what I do more than ever, and every year it keeps getting better. And at this point, I've worked with dozens of entrepreneurs who run multi-million-dollar businesses, but they're miserable or they're burnt out or kind of unfulfilled, and they know they're capable of so much more if they loved it. I'm going to walk you through 10 fulfillment blockers, is what I call them, that I noticed in myself and them that cause you to quietly resent your business, feel uncommitted, or generally operate at a mediocre level. And my goal is to get you absolute clarity on what's actually missing and how to transform your current business so that you fall in love with it. So you can grow it into the business that you've always wanted when you got into it in the first place. And there might only be one thing that you're missing, or it might be multiple things. And it may only take a small tweak or a bigger shift. And before you freak out, does that mean I have to change my entire business? Not necessarily. It might just be a small tweak that makes a massive difference. The sooner you can identify your forever business, the better. Because it's not just way more fun and enjoyable and your life just gets better because it is the business that you're most excited about, but it also leads to the biggest growth because the biggest results come 10 years into running your business. And you can only run a business for 10 years well if you love it. So do not waste your life doing something that, one, you don't even enjoy, and two, because of that, you'll eventually quit or you won't stick with it long enough, missing out on the biggest results. So let's dive into it. All right, let's get into the first one. And this one is massive. You may have heard me talk about this on the channel before, but I'm going to make it highly specific to you as a business owner who's running a successful business, which is that your business is not aligned with your nature. When this is the case, doing work feels difficult, draining, and exhausting, and you're constantly having to push yourself to do the work, you don't really enjoy it, or you feel drained by it. And yes, don't get me wrong, every business requires some sort of work that you don't enjoy. That's always going to be the case. But you don't want to be in a business where this is the vast majority of tasks that are required repeatedly and in a long period of time. So let me give you more context. The cause of this problem is that your business or your current strategy requires you to mostly do things that don't come naturally to you. If you don't have charisma and you're currently committed to doing a YouTube channel or live stream where you have to entertain people, you're going to have a bad time, right? And I know that's a crazy example, but let's say, for example, you most prefer to work on technical problems by yourself uninterrupted, but you have dozens of clients that you constantly have to check in with and talk to and socialize with, that is just draining your energy. On the flip side, you might be somebody who's very extroverted, you love people, you want to be around people, and that's what energizes you most, but you run an e-commerce business like I used to, and all day you spent behind a computer looking at spreadsheets and numbers. And the solution is to make sure that you uncover your natural strengths, your modus operandi, and your values. And then you redesign your business so its core work leverages your nature. By MO, modus operandi, I mean the way that your brain naturally operates. It's almost like your default brain settings. For example, you might immediately solve problems through networking and relationships, right? Your brain immediately goes social, right? Like, how can I talk to somebody, ask help from someone, get to know somebody new, right? Somebody else might immediately plan and structure and organize something. That's how they like to attack any task. Or you immediately go and do research. Or if you're me, you immediately start connecting different ideas with each other and see, okay, how does this connect to this, right? Like, this is something that I've learned about myself. And if you look at the top entrepreneurs out there, their business is fully aligned with their nature, because the only way that they could build such an impressive business is by leveraging that talent, that natural way of operating and thinking where it feels effortless, right? And I talked before about the zone of genius. And the zone of genius is basically a task or something that you do that is effortless to you, that you also are way better at than anyone else, because it's your natural way of operating. It's a talent. It's your nature. Their zone of genius is leveraged in their core work. And by core work, I mean the activities that you do most in the business that create a competitive advantage. Elon Musk, for example, is a walking, talking, problem-solving computer. He just naturally gravitates to difficult problems and learns everything he can about it and then goes into the technical details. He's at the assembly line of Tesla. He's with the engineers at SpaceX. It's what he's exceptionally good at. And he creates a competitive advantage in these businesses because he pushes these departments forward. Somebody like Tony Robbins, from a young age, the teacher already told him, you know how to move people. You know how to influence people and how to communicate. And guess what he's doing now? All day, every day, it seems like. His entire business is the way he rocks the stage with thousands of people and creates change with them live while in person. And then Mr. Beast was always very drawn to strategy games, right? Like, how can you pull the right levers to win this game? And he would play games like the Dune board game, right? Where he even organized his own tournament and flew in the best players from all over the world, and then he won that tournament. YouTube is his strategy game, where you figure out what are the different levers that I need to pull and how do I allocate my resources to make the numbers go up. So how do you redesign your business so that its core work leverages your nature? So one simpler tweak where you don't have to change your entire business or what business you're in the first place is by changing strategies. For example, if you have a way that you get clients, it could be by running paid ads, it could be through networking and referrals, it could also be through making content. Your nature should be the biggest filter mechanism to choose which one of these strategies is best suited for you. Because if you're a massive introvert and you would hate going to events and being in front of the camera and making content, you should probably run paid ads. But if you're a yapper like me, then maybe you should make content. Maybe you should go to conferences because you need that human interaction and that's what really fuels you. It's energizing to you, whereas ads would be draining. Anytime you spend thinking of new creatives, reviewing the ad campaigns, you would be drained. And you don't want to pick based on, well, what is logically speaking the best strategy, the most effective one? It doesn't matter. Business is a long-term game, and you will have a really rude awakening when you learn the most effective strategy that you hate, and then after 12 months, 18 months, 3 years, maybe 5 years, you're just like, I can't deal with this anymore. I don't want to. This whole time you could have built a channel or could have built a network leveraging your extroverted nature that would have gotten way better results because you end up quitting, doing the thing that's more effective but not sustainable. And I can speak from my own experience because that's what I did with the YouTube channel. I made viral videos that technically were more effective because it got a lot of views and grew my channel to 500,000 subscribers in 3 years. And then I was like, I don't like this because I spent most of my time editing or talking with my editing team to get one video out per month, but I just want to communicate my ideas, but I can't talk about most of my ideas because the packaging isn't right. It's not viral enough. And then I end up quitting. And you might only need a small tweak, right? If you're making content, there's a way to hate making content and there's a way to love making content. For example, Sam Ovens, super introverted. He's the founder of School, and he's one of those guys who just wants to build things. In his own words, I just want to build things. And on my podcast, he told me very clearly he hated making content. He had so much resistance to it, like talking to the camera, thinking of new content. And he knew that he should make some content for School again. But the last thing he wanted to do was, again, make videos like he used to because he just wouldn't be able to stick with it. But then he told me he found a way to make content fun by making it natural to what he was already enjoying, which was sitting in front of a computer while talking to Andrew Kirby, somebody on School's team, like he's a community manager guy, person, and looking at the computer talking about school, but he's doing something he already enjoys. He's talking to somebody he likes about his favorite thing, school, while looking at a computer and showing something there. And now he's made it so much more enjoyable. That's what we want to look for in our business. Like, what are the small tweaks that I can make that will make this 10 times more enjoyable and energizing? Or maybe it is also some bigger tweaks where you transform the offer that you have in your business, or you're growing your business into its next phase, right? So one of my clients, for example, runs a top agency, marketing agency, and his favorite thing is building automated solutions and building things. And he doesn't like having to manage clients and doing the same thing over and over again. And what his next phase looks like is building these automated solutions for his existing clients into a software, and from there transitioning slowly into a software business, right? That is a big change and makes sense for him. And he's still leveraging all the things that he learned previously with his past clients to transition his business into one that is a lot more aligned with what he actually wants. And then after, your experience is that your work leverages your zone of genius and nature. It feels energizing, enjoyable, and natural. You're exceptional at it, and it comes with little effort because you're operating in default settings. No one can compete with you because no one is you. I like to think of this as easy mode, compared to how difficult things are when everything is a drag. And I know, business is never easy, but compared to what it used to be like when I was running my e-commerce business, and there truly is no competition when you know what makes you unique in the world, especially a little snowflake, because no one is you. There's no one that can compete with Tony Robbins, not because he's the best at personal development and public speaking, but because he's the best at what he specifically does. If somebody else was doing events and tours and workshops and stages as big as him, it would be a different flavor. That person would have a different personality, a different way of relating to people, and a different way of public speaking, right? And think about somebody like Steve Jobs. He had no competition as well, right? Sure, there was Bill Gates, but Bill Gates had a very different zone of genius, and they both filled very different niches. Now, this next one is, I would say, one of the biggest ones that hold you back from embracing this easy mode once you leverage your nature. And that is, you are mostly driven by pain. Ooh, uncomfortable. You already know it. You've already heard it. Once you make the money, you go, oh, what now? This might be your experience. You rely on pain or pressure to move you, never feeling like you're doing enough. No matter how well you do, you find a way to beat yourself up or discount the positive. What is the solution to it? The problem is, deep down there's a part of you that believes you need success or effort to feel enough. And no, this is not some heal your trauma, get a therapist type of BS advice. The way I look at this is simply a skill, because it is. Your brain is trained to think this way, and it got you from A to B, but it won't get you from B to C. And you've simply trained your brain from A to B to always keep moving the goalpost, right? The happiness that I want, the thing that I need to feel like there's a sense of completion is out there. And even if you're moving towards that, it keeps moving with you because your brain is just trained to look out there. It's never trained to be like, oh, isn't it awesome that we're here? And there's no endpoint. And in a way, you're chasing validation, right? Once I get there, I'll be happy. And it's almost like a relationship where you chase someone to get their approval, not because you actually love them. It's more like, who's going to love me rather than who can I love? This is what's kind of happening in your business, where you have this obligation mindset, right? I should work harder. I should maximize this opportunity. I should do what works, right? And that quickly becomes the trap of discipline, right? Where you end up forcing yourself to do things that, yes, drive the business forward, but you don't really enjoy it, and it doesn't actually bring you to where you want to go, where you enjoy your life and your business is aligned with your nature, right? And then you end up starting a YouTube channel as an extreme introvert. Now, here's the scary part, to really drill into your mind how important it is to make this change. No matter what you do, you carry your thinking with you. And if you had the most fun, fulfilling business that is perfectly aligned with you, you're still going to find a way to ruin it. And the solution is to, broadly speaking, balance your fuel source, right? Right now, you might be driven 90% by pain, and maybe you want to decrease that to 30%, and 70% be driven by progress, contribution, and mastery, right? And I don't think it's a good idea to not be driven by pain at all. I just don't think that's realistic and probably also not healthy. I mean, imagine a caveman who wants to just pick the bananas and has zero fear of the saber-toothed tiger, which you can already hear in the bushes waiting because it's a trap, right? You need some of that fear to at least prevent disastrous outcomes. And it's also common to have a fear of losing your drive. And it's true. You will lose the drive that you have relied upon so far. But the upside is that when you balance your fuel source, it is sustainable energy and you make better decisions and you're able to think more long-term because you're not driven by fear. And think of somebody like Elon Musk who makes really good decisions, but also really dumb, like drama-driven decisions on X and the media and stuff like that, where that's just coming from pain. This is easier said than done, but largely speaking, you need to retrain your brain. And again, it's just a skill. We're not talking about going to therapy and doing an ayahuasca ceremony and healing your childhood trauma. This is about learning and training your brain to be driven by progress, impact, and contribution, and celebrating the wins, right? And just taking the actions that somebody would that is already driven by those things. And all it takes is reps, right? If you look at the way the brain works, oversimplified, there are neural connections that fire every time you think a thought, and if you think that thought more often, your brain wants to make it more efficient, and so the connections get stronger. It builds a little road and then a little highway, and then if you think a thought often and long enough, it builds myelin around the neural connection, which is almost like a little goo, a little casing, the way that almost, cables are put together, where it becomes a highway. And that thought shoots lightning fast, and it's going to be the first thing you think of when something happens, right? It's when things become muscle memory. Now, the problem is this might be the case in the other direction right now for you, where the moment something good happens, you find a way to be like, yeah, I mean, I did my job. It's the bare minimum. But it's like, no, pat yourself on the back. Celebrate this milestone. Get excited about the next milestone. And you can create these neural connections, these highways, by simply training your brain, right? I know this sounds like it's easier said than done, and it is. And this is a whole separate topic. And this is one of the many reasons why people hire me long-term to work with them to, create a new way of living and being, because this is not something that happens overnight. It takes commitment and seeing the value of making this change. Because when this happens, you're mostly driven by progress, contribution, and mastery. Pain is still a motivating factor and a tool that you can tap into at any point when you need it, but it's a productive one. Your drive is sustained, you're able to make long-term decisions, while most importantly, being able to enjoy your successes. This next one is, I would say, the strongest expression to no longer be driven by pain. And if you change this one, you make massive progress in that department. And that is, you're in it for the outcome, not the process. And I know, obvious. You've heard it so many times. I get it. But this is one of these things where you get it and then you get it once you really experience it. Because let me ask you this. If you couldn't get paid for what you're currently doing, would you still do it? Or if what you're doing right now wasn't seen as success and it could never lead to success, would you still do it? And I talked to Hormozi about this, and what he said really opened my eyes logically at the time, and now I get it. I'm like, oh, that's what he meant. So if this is you, your experience might be that your motivation and drive depend on whether you're getting good results or not. Sound familiar? And when results don't come quickly enough, you lose motivation or you burn out easily. And again, common, you have to push yourself to get to work. It's easy to be motivated when you get constant good results and good reinforcement, but when that's taken away, you're going to see whether you are in it for the outcome or whether you actually love the process. And the problem is that you only care about the outcomes instead of loving the game. And the solution is to make the work itself the reward and find work that you love in the first place and celebrate the inputs, not the outputs. So let me unpack this for you. Any top performer loves the game, period. Michael Jordan is a perfect example of this. He had a clause in his contract which was called the love of the game clause, which specifically stated that he was allowed to play basketball at any time, anywhere, even if it was just out on the streets with some random people, which was usually not allowed for professional basketball players because they could get injured and then they could get their contract broken, right? He wanted to be able to play at any point because he loved the game. And there's no competition with the guy who loves to play because he's going to outwork you. He's going to bring way more creativity to the game. And his brain is simply wired to just do that. And years ago, I made a video on my channel where I asked a bunch of successful entrepreneurs for the so-called shortcut to $1 million, right? Because I thought it was an interesting video, and it was. And he said, the point is not to enjoy the process so that you can get the reward more easily, because then it's still about the outcome. The point is that the work is the reward. Think about this. How can you make just doing the work the reward? Where it's just, you did the work and you've won. Not because, oh my God, yes, I completed it. I did my thing. Now I don't have to beat myself up and be driven by pain, right? None of that. No. The work is the reward. Not you having done the work, but you doing the work. And let's face it, some of you are doing work that you just don't like. You just hate. It's not aligned with your nature. It's not interesting. It's not fascinating. It's not fulfilling. And you just need to find work that you love, right? And a good sign is, how do you feel during and after doing an activity, right? Not before, because it's easy to get excited about something, get to work, you don't really enjoy it while you're doing it, and then afterwards you feel kind of drained. On the flip side, a lot of writers who love writing and they write a best-selling book every year, they have something called writer's block. And so they have a lot of resistance getting into work, and that's just the war of art, right? You have resistance starting something, but then once they're writing, they enjoy it, and after they've written, they feel good. They feel energized, right? And they don't feel good because they have relief and like, oh, thank God it's over. But no, they feel, I've got more energy now. And that's the truest thing to look for, right? How do you feel during and after an activity? Not before. Because again, you can be compulsively pulled to do something, but then not enjoy it and feel bad afterwards. And that's just a sign that you got dopamine by your brain, right? Where you're craving something and it doesn't even feel good and it doesn't feel good afterwards. You just had that craving feeling. And a simple way to do this, to make it a bit more practical, is to, again, celebrate the inputs, not the outputs, right? Celebrate you having done the work or you having put in effort, not the outcomes that come with it. And Huberman was featuring a really interesting study on his channel where he talked about this research that was done on two groups of children who both were given, I think it was an impossible task. It was a task that was impossible, and they wanted to see which group of kids was going to be more persistent. Group A, they gave them some tasks beforehand that they could solve, and they rewarded them for the outcome. They said, wow, you did it, you completed it, you have an A+, right? Whereas Group B, they rewarded for the effort they put in. So even if they didn't achieve the result, they said, wow, you really tried. Good job, you really didn't give up. And when they gave them the impossible puzzle and measured how long they would stick with it, how persistent they were, the group of children that was rewarded for the effort not only tried harder and longer, but also generally got further. They got better results. And one thing to note here too is to be careful of the trap of discipline, right? I think I may have talked about this before, but discipline can be a crutch, right? Because you can be so good at pushing through pain, pushing through effort, that you know the pain route and it's very familiar to you, so you choose it instead of looking for a better way, right? For example, optimizing for where you feel more energized, right? And then long term, you might actually create a business where the strategies that you're using and the way you've built the business is based on what brings the best outcomes, not based on what's actually energizing. And the thing that's energizing, again, I see it over and over again, tends to be the one that works best long-term. And business is a long-term game, so it's the only thing that counts. So you want to feel like every day feels like winning because you're playing the game, and therefore you're able to think in decades, not months and outwork 99% of people. Next up, this might be obvious, but for some of you, it might not be. You are not excited about learning more in this business. And this might be your experience. In the beginning, you were excited to learn and grow because it was new, right? Easy to be excited about something when it's new. But now you're bored, disengaged, and not interested to go deeper. And you just lost your sense of progress, or you just don't care enough to grow this business in the first place. So this is something that I went through, where I'm learning more and more that progress drives motivation. And in the beginning, it's very easy to be motivated and excited because you're learning and you're growing and the learning curve is very high. You make a lot of progress, right? But when you're no longer feeling a sense of progress in your business, or you don't care to learn more and therefore grow more, you kind of get stuck and the business just loses its momentum and you lose your momentum. This is the number one reason why great employees quit as well, if you think about it, right? They're in a company where they keep doing the same thing and they're not growing anymore. I recently worked with a client who had a very similar business to me, which was an e-commerce business, and he was also selling random kids products that he didn't care about. I was also selling kids product, and he was in the same spot as me, which was, okay, in order to grow this business, the next best step is to build an audience and create content or paid ads or something like that, and serve this community of moms, which I don't care about. And I would hate to make content that don't care about for people that, sorry to all the moms out there, I can't really relate. And there was nothing new and exciting for me to learn. The solution to this is to find a path that is energizing and interesting, or in the worst case, find a business that you can be fascinated by for decades. But before you switch businesses, which comes with a very high cost, you might want to see if there's some way that you can find an interesting path to take your current business, right? For example, I could have at the very least stayed in e-commerce and launched a new brand, right? Different products that I care about more, and then learned YouTube for that, and then grew my e-commerce business, that one, through YouTube, right? I could have done that, and I would have enjoyed that a lot more. But I didn't see that option at the time, so I sold it. And I'm glad. This next one is also closely tied to this one. You unconsciously believe growing your business will make your life worse. You want to grow, but you're dealing with constant doubt about whether it's worth it. And your fear of success causes you to self-sabotage, taking one step forward and two steps back. This is very common when people are stuck, even with changing a behavior, right? Or wanting to become successful in the first place, right? Because they believe, okay, I want to be really successful, but I believe that I'm going to lose my friends or that my family is going to judge me. And so you have this internal conflict, is what Tony Robbins calls it, where you take one step forward and one step back, or two steps back, right? Or two steps forward and one step back. And it's just draining because you have to do double work. You keep self-sabotaging, and it's really hard for you to take action, and you waste a lot of energy overthinking. Like one client of mine was saying how painful it was to grow the business. And then he came to the painful realization that it was not just painful to grow the business, but also painful to then maintain the growth of that business and now have to deal with all these customers. And then he had to build the next thing to get rid of that pain. And that was painful too. But then the next painful problem came because it was bigger, right? And he got to this point where he was like, do I want a bigger business if it just leads to more pain? And it just created this friction for him, right? Because more customers means more complexity, and you need a bigger team, and then you need more meetings and more management. And you think, I'm going to have to do more things that I don't want. And what you can see with these two right here is that both of them are about a lack of progress. And you're either not progressing because, you're not excited to go deeper and you lose momentum, right? Or you're not progressing because you're afraid of success and the consequences that come with it. But progress is crucial for happiness and overall fulfillment as a human being. It is a human need. And it's literally how video games get you hooked and obsessed with playing the game. It's this sense of progress, right? And it is how children develop confidence. It is crucial to feel some sort of progress. And it doesn't mean necessarily a bigger business, but it could be more freedom, right? You're getting better at the craft. You're doing more fun things in the business, right? But here you believe that growth equals more problems and less freedom. And If growth is punished, you lose drive and therefore fulfillment. The solution is to systematize or restructure the business so that growth maintains or increases freedom, right? And not complexity. It doesn't increase problems or complexity. And the key thing here is long-term. It must do that long-term. You want to build systems, you want to hire a key person, you want to find a creative solution that doesn't just put a patch on a broken leg, but actually works long-term. So that as a result, every part of you is aligned and you're sprinting towards growth. You're no longer tiptoeing. And to give you another practical example of a solution for this is from another client of mine where we worked together to switch his offer from him doing anything that the client wants for a flat fee per month, and he can only take a handful of them, to creating specific outcomes that he delivers and then getting the client to commit to a big contract where he got a much bigger delta on the work that he put in and the money he would be able to charge for it. Now, this next one is very painful, and I've been through it myself. It is your business is at risk or your results feel out of your control. So you lack motivation and conviction to take action because the results in your business feel out of your control, or your business is at risk and could be taken away from you. Think about this. Uncertainty is the killer of motivation and love. If we're talking about falling in love with a business here, I'm not talking about desire, but love, right? When you are uncertain in a relationship, it's very difficult to truly feel connected. The problem is uncertainty kills drive and devotion. And we're talking about a shaky business that could go away at any point, right? For me, that was also the e-commerce business. Again, another one of these things that just made me hate the business because Amazon was a very tough platform to be on. Because I literally knew friends who just had their Amazon account shut down because of some nothing burger, even if you followed the rules. And the whole space was kind of shady. There was a lot of competitors who were doing shady stuff that could get them kicked off. And then you did a little bit of that just to be able to compete, and your business might be taken away. It was very uncertain. And then another client of mine, he is heavily dependent on one platform that might change its algorithms soon, which is terrible for his drive and motivation, right? It feels very unstable and predictable. Now, that's if the whole business is at risk of just being wiped out, basically. But what if your business just feels unstable or unpredictable, right? Where your input versus the output that you get is very uncertain. That also creates a strong lack of motivation because sometimes you just ask yourself, what's the point? Like, is this even going to be worth it, right? And this was very relatable to me with my YouTube channel where you would make a video for a month and work your ass off and it would get 3 million views. And other times you would work just as hard, it should be performing, but then it only gets 50,000 views. And you might not be able to pay your team this month. It's hard to fall in love with someone you know might leave at any point, right? And I'm not talking about desire, but I mean real connection. And the solution for this is to create strong systems to make the results more predictable and or minimize risk through diversification, right? So in my example, that meant, okay, let me start a podcast, or also change the upload frequency where if a video doesn't work out, then I'm uploading another one next week. It's fine. Or also adding an offer, right? Me working with entrepreneurs who already run multi-million-dollar businesses and want to turn it into their forever business and feel more fulfilled doing it, right? So all these things just remove the pressure of having to have these monthly videos, having to make them perform. And once you fix that, you feel safe and grounded in your business, which allows you to be devoted to it and think long-term, right? And now I can think very long-term with the content that I'm making because I'm making great money and I don't need to get these views. So what brand do I want to build? And the client who is very dependent on just one platform is currently also diversifying his risk by learning other platforms and also acquiring other businesses that he can grow through that platform, right? And that just removes so much pressure where if that happens, this catastrophic event, he's going to be fine. Now, what does that look like for you? How predictable or safe does your business feel? And there might be some changes that get to happen. Next up is a very common one, and you may have already heard about it before, but you're a control freak in your business. You're having to control everything in the business and you feel spread thin because of that. And you do the busy work, or things have to be done a certain way for you to feel in control. At the cause of this problem is you falsely believe that you're the only one who can do it right, and or you have trust issues. And the solution is to build foolproof systems so you can delegate more easily, and just overall getting better at building systems, delegating stuff, and increasing your ability to release control, which again is a skill. And it's so funny because I remember when I was running my e-commerce business and I was doing pretty much everything, all the operations. And I truly believed at the time that I'm the only one who knows how to price the products at the right time in the right way to make sure that we rank effectively for keywords, right? Not to bore you with any details, but prices always change on Amazon. The keyword rankings always change. And sometimes you should adjust the pricing short term to make sure you rank for the right keyword again so that you secure your position, right? And I really believed I'm the only one who could do it. And I just thought, you know what? It requires all this experience. I'm just using my gut. I just have a feel for it, right? But once I mapped it out, it became very clear. I'm always doing the same thing. And it's a very step-by-step process. I look at the sales. If the sales are underneath a certain number that I should be expecting, and I knew what that number was based on the past sales, so you can just look at the past sales and make a quick calculation in your mind. Is it less than usual? Yes. Then go to the next step. Now check these top 10 keywords. Where are we ranking for these? Is it better or worse than last time? If it's better, you're good. Nothing needs to change. If it's worse, we should probably lower the price. And then I would make a calculation in my head that was unconscious, how much we should lower the price for how long, and then I would check in later again. So it's very much a very clear algorithm that I was running, right? If this, then that. If this, then that. But I just thought I'm the only one who can do this. And what process do you currently feel like you can't delegate? And then I would just challenge that and have you do the process and see what algorithm do you run in your mind to make certain decisions? And can you operationalize that? Is there a way to make it a simple process that somebody can follow, or give them a tool that helps them make these decisions, right? Whether it's an AI, right, and somebody can write emails for you, or a calculator to make certain number-driven decisions. And then your business runs without you. You spend the majority of your time working on the business to grow it or doing the things you enjoy. Now, the next one is the flip side of that, which is your business is controlling you and it's costing you dearly in life. Your business is consuming you, straining your relationships, health, and other areas of your life. You're unable to meet your needs properly. And the problem is your business prevents you from basic human needs being met. And this is most likely because you are controlling the business and you're controlling in general, right? And I get it. Some businesses are just really demanding and there's crazy growth and volatility and it just requires a lot of involvement. And it is a skill to quit being a manager, become an owner, systematize, delegate, focus on leverage, and making great decisions, not working hard. It is more the norm than the exception that I'm working with a client who hasn't dated in years. And not because they're not attractive, they just haven't spent the time doing it. And then they tell me they want to find a wife in the next 1 to 3 years. And the question is, when are you going to do that? Like, this needs to be a priority right now. And you might be using business as an escape, right? And you're letting it control you. But yeah, the solution to it is very similar to being a control freak, because one is oftentimes causing the other. Not always, but oftentimes. And the result that you want is that your business makes your life better because it creates freedom and resources. That's why we started the business in the first place, right? And your life, on the other hand, makes your business better because it allows you to make great decisions, be creative, and think long-term. This is one of the reframes that I think a lot of entrepreneurs get to have, which is that taking time off is one of the most productive things that we can do, and also one of the most challenging things that we can do. And it takes discipline. And it's something to look up to, right? It's something to celebrate when we see this in other people. We're like, wow, this guy is able to take a week off. I take Sundays off, which amongst entrepreneurs is oftentimes like, wow, you don't work on Sundays. Great. And to the average person, that's like, oh my God, you only take one day off a week? Yeah. But man, when I take time off and I come back to the business, I think more clearly, I have better ideas. That decision that I've been chewing on that I wasn't clear about is crystal clear now, and it's obvious. And all these things that I was distracted by, all these shiny objects and problems that I was making up, just fade away. It just becomes very clear, okay, this is what needs to be done. And in the later stages of a business, as you are more skilled and more experienced, it becomes more and more about making great decisions, right? And you want to focus on what creates leverage and making better decisions, not on working hard, because it's not about how hard you work. It's making sure you're working on the right things. And this will only increase. Going from not working hard to working hard happens once, and that's in stage one. It's when you're making your first business work. The next stages, it just becomes more and more important that you get better at the skill of making the right decisions, thinking big picture, and finding leverage, right? Like when Jeff Bezos makes one decision for Amazon, it creates years of work for 1,000 people that are working on a specific department. And if that's the wrong decision, then it leads to $1 billion difference in outcome than if you made the right decision, right? So for him, it's not about working more, it's about making better decisions. And no matter what stage you're at, if you already have a successful business, it's only going to become more important that you get better at this. So why not now? Now, this next one is, I would say, oftentimes misunderstood, and I have a little bit of a different take on it. And that is, you don't have the impact you want to have. And in my case, right here, it means not that, okay, you got to have a big, massive purpose to change the world. It's not that kind of stuff, because that's what a lot of entrepreneurs think. When they don't enjoy their business, they think, you know what, I should probably just do this thing and just figure out how I can change the world and impact 1 billion lives, and then I'll be fulfilled. That's not how it works, usually. Oftentimes, you just need to do something that you actually enjoy doing that is aligned with your nature. But in this case, what I mean here is that you sell something you don't fully believe in because it doesn't create the level of results that you'd like. It might just not be that effective. Or you serve people you don't care about, or you actively don't like, or you're contributing to a negative impact. And when you lay in bed at night and you get really honest with yourself, you know, this supplement does create gut issues for people, or whatever it might be, right? I remember this one entrepreneur that I worked with who he was helping lawyers make more money through SEO, but there were only 2 problems with it. One, the kinds of lawyers that he was serving, these are not people that you like. And secondly, what he was doing wasn't really helping them either. So he was making money from it, but he was like, what am I even doing here? I don't like these people. I don't get good results for them. So they cancel after a month or 2, but they pay really well. And even if I got them results, I wouldn't want to. So the problem is kind of obvious. Feeling useless or like you're part of a problem sucks, unless you're a sociopath. And listen, I've met these guys who, sell dick pills that obviously don't work, or run ads at scale to guys who are short with these height adjustment surgeries or whatever. And these ads basically tell these guys, yeah, you're not going to have a shot at life, and no woman's ever going to like you if you're less than 6 feet. And that wasn't a problem for these guys because they had fun doing that because they were sociopaths. And I'm just going to assume that's not you. And if you are, please leave me alone. Get away from me. The solution is either you get better at what you do so that you can get people great results and you start liking the impact that you have, or you change who you're serving, maybe because you can get them better results, or because you don't like the people that you're currently serving and you don't want to be around these people, or you change your product and service. Obvious, don't need to spend more time on it, but Yeah, you know your work makes a positive difference, maybe even to something you care about. It doesn't have to be anything big. It doesn't have to change the world, but you just want to feel useful, right? And you feel important, needed, and fulfilled. If all it does is it creates jobs and people like working here and you feed their family, that's massive. And lastly, also very simple one, you don't like the environment your business puts you in. You're surrounded by pain in the ass clients, boring people, or toxic industry culture. And yeah, I get it. Some industries are just full of people who suck. It's cutthroat business sharks, right? Or there's one guy that I interviewed on my channel, Khalil Rafati. He has a juice chain called Sun Life Organics, which is this super organic, super healthy juice chain. And he loves that business. And before then, he was a homeless drug addict on Skid Row, the most notorious homeless encampment in the US. And then once he clawed himself out of the hell of drugs, he started a rehab center, a drug recovery center. And he was making a positive impact, yes. He was making money, yes. But he hated being surrounded by rich drug addicts who were ungrateful, who didn't want to be there. And now he loves his business, right? And so the problem is work is 80% of your life. And the people your business puts you around are the people you spend your life with, period. Think about it. And the solution is to change your environment, your clients, your peers, your industry to align with your values so that you're surrounded by inspiring people and customers you want to serve because you genuinely like them. Now, next up, how many of these are currently missing in your business or your life? Is it just one? Is it all of them? Is it a bunch of them? And how clear is it now why you're not as fulfilled as you could be? And you're leaving so much potential and drive and motivation and fulfillment and growth on the table. If you know what's missing in your business and you'd like me to help you make the changes necessary so that you can fall in love with your business, and you can build it into something massive or something that creates the life that you wanted when you got into this in the first place, then please reach out to me. There's going to be a link below. You can try to figure it out yourself. And if you want to save yourself months of trial and error and grab this problem by the horns and solve it with certainty and speed, then let's have a chat and see how I can help. But regardless, whether you're doing this with me or with somebody else, or you do it by yourself, don't wait. This is your life. Make the changes as soon as you can. Because how long has it been that you are 1 foot in and 1 foot out in your business? Or you are all in, but you're not really happy? Don't waste your life operating at a mediocre level, because life is too short for that. The world needs more entrepreneurs who are lit up and loving their life because they are living their nature and building the forever business. I'm going to be sending you more emails with useful resources and videos like this to help you make the changes necessary, so keep an eye out for that. And in the meantime, you can click the link below to reach out to me if you want to work with me to get my help. Until then, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.